Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining today's webinar. This is actually a recording from what we did last week as part of our four-part running series. Just as a quick introduction, my name is John Lee, one of the physical therapists here at Fit Club New York. This is part two of our four-part running series. When the team and I got together, we wanted to just discuss some ways that we can put together information to help everyone out there. And right now, with the limited use of gyms, etc., running is one of those things that everybody is looking to get into just to stay as active as we can, both mentally and physically. So again, we wanted to put together something that would highlight a handful of things that could be important for the runner to know, combining a little bit of information in the form of a short presentation along with some options for movements. Last week, or sorry, 2 weeks ago, session one was all about the running analysis, running form, why it matters. And I offered up a couple of coordination drills. So if you want that information and you wanted that presentation, feel free to email us at info@fitclubny.com. As we continue to do these, they'll continue to be recorded and distributed to anybody who's interested in them, because our goal is to be able to provide as much information and value as we can during these pretty crazy times. So today, again, four-part series here. We're talking all about the core, and the goal is to discuss why does it matter and why should we train it specifically for runners. Want to give you a little bit of information, and then I'm going to pop over and again show you a few things that I like to add into the core strengthening or core stability routine for any runner that I end up working with when I'm in the clinic. So typically when we say or think about a strong core, this might be the first image that pops into mind. And although it's great to have a ripped six pack, I'm here to tell you that having a six pack doesn't necessarily mean that you have a strong core. Excuse me. The abdominals are actually only one aspect of the entire core. And even though it is important, again, it's only one piece of more puzzle pieces that kind of form a complete picture. So if we're thinking about the core and it's not really a ripped six pack, what exactly is it? So the core is actually a bunch of muscles, as you can see from this image and from the list on the left here. So you've got those abdominals, again, the six pack in the front. You've got your obliques kind of sort of at the sides, transverse abdominis that wraps around you, even the diaphragm at the top of your belly, your pelvic floor at the bottom, and a lot of muscles around and across the back, like the multifidi and multifidus, etc., that create the entire section of the core. So as you can see, more puzzle pieces here, more pieces that can help to move us individually. So again, the abdominals helping to move us forward. A lot of these other muscles like our obliques, etc., to move us side to side. But most importantly about the core is how they work together in order to create a nice, stable platform for us. Think about the spine here. You're looking at it from the side. The way that our spine is designed is like a stack of dominoes. And that stack of dominoes is actually meant to be able to move and bend so that we can go about our day rotating, grabbing something, reaching over here for an object. And all of these core muscles work together in order to create stability through that very, very mobile spinal segment, so that we have, again, efficiency and stability to move on top of. So rather than thinking about the core as like one specific thing, a different way to think about it is an orchestra. Again, all of these muscles need to work in concert with each other, constantly contracting here, contracting there in order to build stability. So think about my body. I'm going to tilt this down a bit here, but think about me sitting in this nice upright posture. Both of the muscle groups on both sides of my body need to be contracting at a even pace in order for one side not to overpower the other. So similar to an orchestra where we don't want one sound to be too powerful, all of these instruments are kind of working together in order to create that total body stability and total body tension, so that we can continue to perform the things that we want to perform. So the image that I have over here on the right is that of a can, and it's about how the core actually functions for us, and how it functions for the body. So one of the primary goals, as I mentioned, is to create stability through a very, very flexible spinal column. So think about the core with all those pieces, top, bottom, sides. They wrap this entire midsection of your body, and it's more like a can. So we want that can to be sturdy. We want it to be strong. because that can then stabilizes the entire body. Very, very important when you're doing things like weight training and lifting objects, because we want to make sure, again, that that spine is stable and protected, so that as we do things, we can do so safe from harm and do so in an efficient manner. Excuse me. The secondary part of this and that stability, and why that stability matters, is because it's all about creating some level of efficiency through the body. The way that our body likes to work is that it wants to be efficient. We don't want to waste energy, and that's especially true when we're running. Whether it's a mile, 5 or 20 miles, we want to be as efficient as we can through that entire running process, and having that stable foundation is what's going to help us to achieve that. So the way I like to explain this and show it, just so you can feel this out, is if you were to put your wrist out like this or your hand out like this, now start to wiggle your fingers really, really quickly, you'll notice that you're able to do that. So now what I want you to do is kind of flop your wrist around and try to wiggle those fingers independently. So you'll notice it's a much harder task to do because there's no stability through this section for those fingers to move on. So similar to the core, if this is our midsection and these are our arms and our legs, we want that stability here so that we can efficiently move over here. Proximal, midsection, distal, arms and legs. Stability proximally, movement distally. And that's the goal of how the core should be functioning, so we can increase that efficiency, especially with running where you have your arms and your legs, even with walking, they're moving in opposite directions. So not only is it a very coordinated effort, it requires a lot of movement, big limbs. So just not just fingers, we've got our entire shoulder, elbow, wrist, fingers, our entire hip, knee, ankle. Those two things are moving in opposite directions. So again, we want that stability through that midsection in order for us to do that. And I like to include this picture because similar to last time, we were talking about running form. If we're not looking stable, we get this crazy rotation. We get this movement that's a little bit out of control. And again, that type of running is not going to be efficient. You can do it, totally fine. If you want to go for it, feel free. I'm not here to tell you what to do, but in research and everything that we know about running and how the body tends to like to work when it comes to these types of activities, that stability helps us to prevent that excess motion, so we could translate all of our energy forward, because when we run, right, we're running in a straight direction. We're not running in a zigzag pattern. So when it comes to physical therapy and what exactly it is that we do, the things that we're looking for specifically are how can we assess certain things. So rather than just think about strength specifically, we also want to think about endurance. Again, we want to know that you can stabilize a particular part of your body for a prolonged period of time, especially with running, because as you're logging those miles, you could be running anywhere from 10, 15 minutes upwards of 2, 3, 4 hours if you're trying to attempt your first marathon. Things like, can you hold a plank for a certain amount of time? Can you keep and understand that tension through your body so that that spinal segment could be nice and solid as you're looking to do things? Those are some of the drills, assessments that we would go through, again, just to know that our client can understand how to create that tension, how to keep that tension, and how to use that tension as the body is moving. Um, and this is where we get into some of our exercise drills. So again, if you want that ripped six pack, you're thinking about those abs flexing you forward, nothing wrong with this at all. But we want to think about how does the core work together with the rest of the body. So a lot of the drills that I'm going to show you is exactly that. It's how do we create that tension and that stability through this middle part of our body so that our arms and our legs can move efficiently. Some of these exercises might be familiar at their base and in their foundation and fundamental components because they might be things that you've already done. We're just going to be adding small tweaks to this so we make it as specific to the runner as we possibly can. So I'm going to quickly just unplug my computer here. Give me a second, guys, to just reset up. So sorry if you guys lost me for a second. I'm just going to move my computer so we have a better view. We'll talk about this slide next, but again, wanted to just show us some things. So last week, for anyone who might have missed it, some of the drills that I was going through included this marching pattern. So even in this effort here, the core is constantly working so that as I lift one leg, my entire body doesn't move with it. Notice how I'm in a nice tall position as I'm doing this march and this coordinated effort, turning that into a skip, which we went through last time, and then into high knees. So if you translate that into running, you'll notice that each time I take that step, my body is stable through here. My arms and my legs are moving on that fixed segment so that I'm not going here or rotating side to side. So even in those coordination drills, we're already starting to create a pattern of how the core should be functioning to maintain that nice upright position as we're logging our miles. So now, I'm just gonna move this here so we can see a little bit better. I'm gonna go through a few exercises. They're gonna be tweaks to things that you might already know and things you might already even do. As I mentioned a few slides ago, it's about how does the core function with the arms and the legs. So it's about creating tension through the core while the arms and the legs are moving together. So first thing, we're gonna go into this bridge position, which is something that you might have done before, right? A nice glute bridge to get the glutes engaged. So to change this up a little bit and kind of create a little bit more of that cross-body tension, I'm gonna take my right arm, cross it over and put it on my left knee. Now I want you to think about the left knee constantly trying to push up and the right arm trying to push down. So these two guys are almost like meeting a wall right in the middle there. And as you apply that pressure, you should feel a line of tension through the front diagonal of your core or the anterior oblique sling. And then right here, I'm gonna go up into that bridge and back down. So again, with running, you need really strong glutes to get into that extended position. And we want that good, steady foundation in the core to move on it. 3 sets of 12, you can even add a pause at the top, maintaining this line of tension as the hips are working. So again, a variation to your glute bridges that you can start to add as maybe like a good warm up and to feel what that tension is like. So again, with running, I'm gonna tilt this up for a second. We want those strong glutes because as we push off, we get into that extended position. So that glute drill helps to get tension through the body while focusing energy into the hips. Next one, we're gonna go into a side plank position. Side planks are great because they give us good hip strength and endurance because we're holding a solid position by driving the leg into the floor. So we can start in a modified side plank. And what I often tell people is when you're doing a side plank, don't have your body folded up. You want to think about your knee, your hip, your shoulder, your head being one line. So if you want to start just mastering the side plank, again, you want to think about having an arrow from your thigh all the way up to your face. Nice open chest here. Now from there, we can add our nice running motions. So I have this top leg elevated now, and I can either take it through a nice cycling motion here. So like I'm pedaling my leg, or I can go knee to elbow. Again, something that you might have done before, but we get specific because we're asking this bottom hip to stay stable, tension through the side of the body here, while the other leg is moving on top of that stable object. The progression to this would be to straighten your legs. So you can come up, longer lever here, more challenge to that hip, more challenge to the side of the body. Same thing, knee highs, or a nice cycling motion with that top leg. Trying to make sure that you keep your hip nice and high and make sure that that leg is constantly pushing down. And then the last one is taking the good old-fashioned front plank and adding a little bit of that arm and leg movement. So what I like to tell people too with a plank, it's really a total body thing, even though it's focused on the core. You can create tension in multiple ways throughout your body. So if you're in that forearm plank, when you do this, try to think about pulling your elbows down into the floor. Even if they're not moving, you want to create that intention of pulling down through your arms and pulling up with your feet, almost like you're trying to fold yourself in half. So here in my nice plank position, again, I'm squeezing my legs as straight as I can. I'm squeezing my glutes as hard as I can. And I'm pulling those elbows into the floor. And now from here, I'm just gonna lift one leg, tap, other, tap. Notice that I'm not lifting so much that I start to arch my back. I wanna stay rigid through that midsection. and get the hips to extend. And you could do those alternating without any deviation in the body. You want to stay nice and rigid as if you had a board laying right across your back. So again, these are some of the things that I personally like to add into the mix, either as a nice warm-up for any runner before they start, just to get that tension through the body. It's a good way to even do it as like an active rest in any of your training sessions. We're going to be touching on strength training at our next session, so we'd love to see you guys join us, just because it's very important for us to cross-train as we run. So next up, right now we're offering 20% off for anybody first-time visit. Reach out to us again for any of these recordings. Email is provided right there. During the live, we had a couple questions about the core. We would love to answer those for you if you guys wanted to shoot us over an email. Happy to hop on a chat or a Zoom. And stay tuned. Again, this is a 4-part series. We did 2 already, this one being the second one, talking about the core. This week coming up, Friday at 12 Eastern, we're gonna be talking about cross-training and strength training. Why is it important to do something other than running? And what are some of the things that you can start to do again at home to incorporate some of this strength training into your routine? And lastly, right now things are kind of tough. Marathons have been canceled, sadly, but the New York Road Runners Association doing some cool things with virtual marathons. These are going to be completely self-guided, but again, just trying to provide you guys with some options, because we know that people are out there training hard still, and they want to be able to see their goals through. And it's great to see that organizations like this are still trying to figure out ways to make sure that the runners are getting the things that they need out of the training that they've been putting in. Have a great day. Enjoy every second of it. And hopefully we hear from you guys soon and see you at the next couple sessions. Bye, everybody.